Harry Anderson, born October 14, 1952, in Newport, Rhode Island, walked into television history as Judge Harold Harry T. Stone on NBC's Night Court, a young, eccentric Manhattan judge who pulled card tricks from his robe and ran his courtroom like a magic show. He played Harry Stone for all 9 seasons, from 1984 to 1992, and what made the role unforgettable was that the magic was never fake. Harry refused camera tricks and performed every sleight of hand himself, live, in front of the studio audience. The role earned him 3 consecutive Primetime Emmy nominations for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series in 1985, 1986, and 1987. He never won, but the nominations alone cemented him as one of the defining comedy leads of his era in the months before his death. Harry had been quietly fighting. He'd been hospitalized in January 2018 with a severe case of influenza, and friends later revealed he had suffered several small strokes in the weeks that followed. On the morning of April 16, 2018, his wife Elizabeth found him unresponsive at their home in Asheville, North Carolina. John LaRoquette, born November 25, 1947, in New Orleans, Louisiana, and started in radio at 15 before finding his way to Hollywood. And his first real brush with immortality came in 1974, when he provided the opening narration for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a favor for a friend that turned into one of the most iconic voice moments in horror history. But television is where the world truly met him. Cast as Assistant District Attorney Dan Fielding on Night Court in 1984, LaRoquette turned a conservative lawyer into a lecherous, self-absorbed, hilariously human disaster, and the Television Academy responded by handing him the Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series 4 consecutive years, 1985, 1986, 1987, and 1988. In 1989, he voluntarily removed his name from consideration to give others a chance. That kind of gesture says everything about the man behind the character. As of 2026, John LaRoquette is alive, 78 years old, and still working. He reprised Dan Fielding in the 2023 Night Court revival, the only original cast member to return, and has spoken openly about being haunted by how many of his co-stars are gone. Richard Moll came into the world on January 13, 1943, in Pasadena, California, and he came in big, standing 6 feet 8 inches tall, with a deep, rumbling voice that could fill a room without a microphone. He became Aristotle Nostradamus Bull Shannon, the towering Moll, tender-hearted bailiff of Night Court, a role he held for all 9 seasons across 193 of the show's 194 episodes. Bull was never just the big guy in the corner. He was the heart of the show, a gentle giant whose childlike innocence and famous slow okay made audiences fall in love with him week after week. The role brought no Emmy, but it brought something rare, a character so beloved that decades later, people still quoted his lines by heart. Outside Night Court, his deep gravelly voice took on a second life in animation, most notably as Harvey Dent and Two-Face in Batman, the animated series, a performance that earned him lasting respect in the voice acting world. On October 26, 2023, at age 80, he passed away peacefully at his Big Bear Lake home. His family chose not to disclose the official cause of death, releasing only that he had died. Markie Post, born November 4, 1950, in Palo Alto, California, spent her early career behind the scenes on game shows before the camera finally found her, and when it did, it didn't let go. She became Christine Sullivan, the passionate, principled public defender of Night Court, joining the cast in Season 3 and staying until the very last episode in 1992. Christine was the moral compass of that crazy Manhattan courtroom, warm, sharp, and stubborn in all the right ways, and Markie played her for 159 episodes with a smile that made the audience trust her completely. Her role didn't bring her Emmy nominations, but it made her a household name. Later, she won a Cable ACE Award in 1994 and earned 3 NAACP Image Award nods across her career. In October 2017, Markie was privately diagnosed with cancer. And on August 7, 2021, at the age of 70, a Saturday, after 3 years and 10 months of that private battle, Markie Post passed away at her home in Los Angeles. Charlie Robinson, born November 9, 1945, in Houston, Texas, began his career singing R&B before finding his way to acting, and in 1984, he stepped into night court as court clerk Macintosh Mac Robinson, the steady, good-natured Vietnam veteran who quietly held the chaos of Judge Harry Stone's courtroom together. He stayed from season 2 through the final episode, appearing in 193 episodes and even directing 3 of them himself. Mac never got the spotlight the way Dan Fielding did, but Martin Landau once called Charlie Robinson the greatest underestimated actor in Hollywood, and the stage agreed, awarding him the Ovation Award for Best Actor for his portrayal of Troy Maxson in August Wilson's Fences. On July 11, 2021, Charlie Robinson died at the Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles. He was 75 years old. The cause was cardiac arrest with multisystem organ failure brought on by septic shock and metastatic adenocarcinoma, a cancer that had spread silently through his body. Marcia Warfield, born March 5, 1954, on Chicago's South Side, was already a force on the stand-up circuit when she won the San Francisco International Comedy Competition in 1979, beating out Harry Anderson and Dana Carvey in the process. When Night Court lost 2 consecutive bailiffs to lung cancer, producers went searching and they found her. From season 4 in 1986, she played Rosalind Roz Russell for 136 episodes, the no-nonsense, unshakable bailiff who kept Dan Fielding in line, anchored Bull Shannon with quiet warmth, and became one of the most recognizable faces of 1980s television. The Emmy never came for the role, but fans have argued about that ever since. As of 2026, Marcia Warfield is alive, 72 years old, and fully back, reprising Roz in the 2023 Night Court revival, starring in Netflix's The Upshaws, appearing on 911, and performing stand-up across the country. Selma Diamond, born August 5, 1920, in London, Ontario, Canada, spent decades as one of the sharpest comedy writers in American television, writing for Sid Caesar, Groucho Marx, Barry Como, and Jimmy Durrani at a time when female writers in that world were nearly invisible. Carl Reiner modeled Sally Rogers on The Dick Van Dyke Show after her. Then, in 1984, Night Court cast her as bailiff Selma Hacker, the chain-smoking, raspy-voiced, permanently unimpressed court officer whose deadpan delivery could silence a room. The role arrived at the very end of her life and brought her an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series and a Golden Globe nomination, both in 1985. She had been in and out of Cedars-Sinai Medical Center since January of that year and was admitted again on May 1st. The lung cancer was advanced. She had finished filming season 2 only weeks before learning how serious it was. At 3:24 in the morning on May 13, 1985, Selma Diamond died at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. She was 64. Florence Hallop, born January 23, 1923, in Jamaica Estates, Queens, New York, was performing on radio by the age of 4.5, stepping in for another child actor one afternoon and building a career that never stopped. Sister of Billy Hallop of the Dead End Kids, she guest starred 6 times on Barney Miller and earned genuine acclaim as the cantankerous patient Mrs. Huffnagel on St. Elsewhere, a role meant for one episode that producers kept expanding across 17 appearances because the audiences simply wouldn't let her go. When Selma Diamond died during Night Court's 2nd season, Florence stepped in as bailiff Florence Kleiner for season 3, raspy, sharp, and secretly tender, forming an unlikely bond with Bull Shannon that fans still remember. The role brought no award nominations. She had 1 season. That was all the show would get from her. Florence was a heavy smoker, just like her predecessor. She entered Cedars-Sinai Medical Center on June 19, 1986, after suffering a stroke, and doctors discovered the cancer had already spread, both lung and breast. On the morning of July 15, 1986, at the age of 63, Florence Hallop died at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. Paula Kelly, born October 21, 1942, in Jacksonville, Florida, trained at Juilliard, danced for Martha Graham and Alvin Ailey, and caught the eye of Bob Fosse, who reportedly called her the best dancer I've ever seen and cast her in the 1969 film Sweet Charity. Broadway loved her, and in 1984, Night Court cast her as public defender Liz Williams, the original, the first, the one who established the role before anyone else. She stayed only one season, but that one season earned her a Primetime Emmy nomination for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series in 1984, the first of 2 Emmy nominations in her career. The second came in 1989 for The Women of Brewster Place alongside Oprah Winfrey. She also received 3 NAACP Image Awards and a London Variety Award for her stage work. Paula stepped away from acting in 1999, and in her final years her health declined, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease wearing her down slowly, with heart complications alongside it. On February 8, 2020, a Saturday, Paula Kelly passed away at a care facility in Whittier, California. She was 77 years old. Her ashes were returned to her daughter, the woman Fosse called the best he'd ever seen, gone softly, far from any stage. Ellen Foley, born June 5, 1951, in St. Louis, Missouri, sang the female vocal on Meat Loaf's Paradise by the Dashboard Light from the 1977 album Bat Out of Hell, one of the best-selling albums in history, though Carla DeVito appeared in the music video, and the mix-up followed Ellen for years. Her boyfriend Mick Jones of The Clash produced her second solo album and wrote Should I Stay or Should I Go about their relationship. In 1984, Night Court cast her as public defender Billy Young for Season 2, 19 fast-talking, passionate episodes alongside Harry Anderson. Then she was let go, replaced by Markie Post before Season 3. No Emmy nomination came for the role. She later joked, "You don't know pain until you've been replaced in a role by Markie Post." As of 2026, Ellen Foley is alive, 74 years old, and still performing in New York City. She released the album Fighting Words in 2021, performed a tribute show for Meat Loaf in 2022, and continues to take the stage regularly. Fired from a sitcom. Still standing. Still singing. Mel Torme, born September 13, 1925 in Chicago, Illinois, was singing professionally by age 4, wrote the Christmas song, Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire, at 19, in 45 minutes, on a hot summer day, to cool himself down, and Nat King Cole turned it into one of the most beloved holiday recordings in history. He won 2 Grammy Awards for Best Male Jazz Vocalist in 1982 and 1983, earned 14 Grammy nominations across his career, and received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 1999. Night Court made him a household name to a brand new generation. Judge Harry Stone's obsession with The Velvet Fog was written into the show because Harry Anderson was a genuine real-life fan, and Torme appeared 9 times as himself, often playing a wry, slightly vain version of the legend, with Anderson later delivering the eulogy at his funeral. In August 1996, a severe stroke ended Mel's 65-year performing career overnight. He never sang publicly again. On the early morning of June 5, 1999, he was rushed from his Beverly Hills home to UCLA Medical Center after difficulty breathing. Gilbert Gottfried, born February 28, 1955, in Brooklyn, New York, started performing stand-up at 15 and spent decades building one of the most instantly recognizable voices in comedy, shrill, aggressive, and somehow impossible not to love. He voiced Iago the Parrot in Disney's Aladdin in 1992, a role he played across sequels, series, and video games for over 20 years, calling it his all-time favorite. His connection to Night Court came late, in Season 9, 1991. He appeared in 3 episodes as Oscar Brown, a temporary prosecuting attorney so intense and irritating that audiences couldn't look away. No Emmy nominations came from it, though he did earn a Daytime Emmy nomination in 2009 for his 2 decades voicing Digit on Cyberchase. What almost no one knew was that Gilbert had been quietly fighting myotonic dystrophy type 2 for years, a rare inherited muscle disorder that gradually destroys the heart's electrical system. He told almost no one. He kept recording his podcast, kept performing, kept making people laugh right to the very end. On April 12, 2022, just hours after finishing a recording session where colleagues watched him doing impressions and laughing, Gilbert Gottfried was rushed to a Manhattan hospital. He died at 2:35 p.m.